Happening now, some New Mexico state legislators are calling for an emergency extraordinary session in the Rat House because they say what is happening to mental health providers and their patients is so bad, something has to be done about it. The state froze payments to 15 of the state's largest mental health providers after an audit showed signs of fraud with them. So the goal of this session would be to pass a bill that would restore the funding to the nonprofits until they had a chance to answer the findings from that audit.
It was very sudden. We were told on June 24th, that our dollars were being withheld and that we would be replaced.
All right, Nancy Jo Archer there. It's emotional on both sides of this issue. She's the former CEO of Hogares in Albuquerque. She is one of the 15 mental health providers in New Mexico accused of $36 million in overbilling and possible fraud. That's what that audit showed. Governor Susana Martinez, we tried to reach out to her yesterday to talk about this, but she did not get back to us. And in the past, she has defended the way her administration has acted with this, saying it was necessary to avoid corruption. The legislature's Behavioral Health Committee is supposed to meet today to talk about this. A couple things you should know. One, Democrats are the ones who want this extraordinary session. For them to get it done, they're going to need the help of at least a few Republicans. Also, if you talk with HSD, the State Department in charge of this, the Human Services Department, it says it had to go out of state to Arizona to get a group to oversee mental health providers in New Mexico. Otherwise, it would be a conflict of interest with the results of that audit. 6:33, developing news now. Albuquerque's new task force that is supposed to police the group that polices the police department is meeting tonight for the very first time. This is also your chance to speak out about APD. News 13 Samantha McDonald's in the front of the North Valley Senior Center. That is where the meeting will be. So what's going to happen there, Sam?
So Matt, the public is highly encouraged to join in on the meeting tonight to figure out how to improve the relationship between the police and the public. So from 5:30 to 7 p.m. tonight, you can join the 11 members who have been appointed to the Police Oversight Task Force. The plan of action is to better understand the current oversight process, identify problems, and discuss how to make Albuquerque safer and more secure. The chair of the committee says the safety of civilians is dependent on the relationship with police, and he says that connection has weakened in recent years.
There's been some tension between the public and the police force. I think that the open forums and the openness of the meeting process will help with that.
The committee has scheduled a total of 4 public forums, including one possible virtual forum. Back to you, Matt.
All right, thank you, Samantha. Of course, there's been a lot of talk about Albuquerque's police department with the shootings from the officers and now a investigation from the Federal Department of Justice. If you cannot make the forum tonight, no worries. There will be more of these. They're coming up on September 10th, the 17th, and October 17th. Well, today we could find out if Los Alamos will be the next county to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples here in New Mexico. Last week, a judge told Los Alamos County Clerk Sharon Stover to start granting the licenses or go to court and explain why she won't. Ms. Stover says she's going to make a decision by today. As of now, 6 counties in New Mexico are handing out licenses to gay couples, 3 after a judge ruled they should. A group of state Republican legislators are trying to stop that from happening, though. A suit was filed on their behalf late last week against the Doña Ana County Clerk Lynn Ellens. He was the first county clerk in New Mexico to start issuing marriage licenses to gay couples, and he did it without the order from a judge. All right, breaking news this morning at 6:35, a missile test in the Mediterranean Sea. As Israel's defense ministry says was carried out a successful missile test in the Mediterranean with the U.S. However, so far this morning, the U.S. is not saying anything about this. Plus, Russia's state-owned news agencies are reporting that Russia's radar systems detected 2 ballistic objects fired from the central Mediterranean toward the eastern part of the sea. This comes while the U.S. has a number of warships, including now 2 aircraft carriers near the Mediterranean, and is considering airstrikes against Syria. Now, on that same note, back in Washington, D.C., today will be the first in a series of hearings on Capitol Hill on these possible strikes against Syria. The president's administration is doing what it can to urge a reluctant Congress that military action is needed there. The president will be meeting with 6 congressional committees at the White House, along with Speaker of the House John Boehner and House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi. Meanwhile, Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid is expected to bring up a resolution for debate once Congress returns from its summer recess. That'll happen next week.
It's a very contentious issue. It's going to take a lot of floor time. So they're hoping to bring that up as early as possible.
President will also be urging leaders going to the global summit, that would be the G20 summit in Russia this week, to back his plans for an American-led strike. Those are the countries with the biggest 20 economies in the world. All right, back in New Mexico at 6:36, the search for a missing wildland firefighter now entering its 5th day. Jemez Ranger District firefighter Token Adams here has been missing since Friday when he was scouting a fire in a remote area on an ATV. Lightning had started that fire. The Forest Service estimates 280 people are helping to look for Mr. Adams. Now, on Monday, the rescue efforts were quite hampered by some wet weather. It grounded a helicopter for much of the day. Now the search is going to get back going today, and it's going into even trickier and more rugged terrain.
We've covered all the easy territory, and so now we need to start looking in some of the canyons and things like that.
Searchers say they're still quite optimistic because of Adams' training. He is quite well versed in those rugged conditions. He had a lot of food and water with him. He also has a pregnant wife and son waiting for him at home. We certainly hope he will get back there safely. And a canine team from right here in New Mexico is back home this morning after an exhausting search for a boy in Oregon who went missing 3 years ago. Karan Horman here disappeared in June of 2010. His stepmom has been the focus of the investigation. This week, volunteers searched an area near where her cell phone was the day Horman went missing. Canine Forensics, a team from Edgewood, just outside of Albuquerque, helped out in the search, saying their dogs may have helped find a new clue in the case. Detectives are reviewing that clue, possibly some evidence, but they are not saying what it is. The group says it was a very tricky search given the extremely rugged conditions they were out working in.
It was very difficult terrain. We ran into bees and bumps and bruises, and very difficult terrain out there.
In the next weeks, the team is also planning to help search for missing people in California and Washington. Well, the trial of a man accused of being involved in the murder of a guy from Artesia is expected to begin today. Matthew Sloan is set to face a judge in Eddy County for last year's murder of Tim Wallace. Police say Sloan and Zenobia Mendoza went to Wallace's house looking for drugs. They kicked in Wallace's door, claiming to be members of the Pecos Valley Drug Task Force. During a fight, a gun went off and a bullet hit Wallace in the head, killing him. Both Sloan and Mendoza are charged with murder. Also today, the trial for an escaped inmate accused of killing a couple in New Mexico is supposed to continue. John McCluskey and Tracy Province escaped from a prison in Arizona before being accused of carjacking and killing Gary and Linda Haas near Santa Rosa. Investigators say McCluskey shot the couple and set their RV on fire with the bodies inside. Province says McCluskey told him he killed the couple because he could not leave any witnesses behind. It's in federal court. No cameras are allowed in there, but we will continue to follow it for you. This trial is supposed to last for at least 3 or 4 more weeks.